Join us today for our adventure in Horse Cave, Kentucky. Hey guys, today we're in Horse Cave, Kentucky, and we're going to go through Hidden River Cave.
So this is the Hidden River Cave in Horse Cave, Kentucky, part of the cave region in south central Kentucky we have here. Now, our cave has about 9 miles of passages, and on our tours we take you about half a mile in and half a mile out. You learn a lot of cool stuff here. But this region in general is home to some of the longest caves in the world, including the longest cave in the world, and most of these caves are not completely surveyed yet, so there's a lot to still be discovered here as well.
So my name is Jay. I'll be your all's guide today for the cave tour. We're going to go ahead and make our way down to the cave entrance. So if y'all are ready, let's follow me and we'll get the adventure started. So let's right this way. Welcome to our cave entrance, right in the backyard and right in the middle of town.
One thing to be aware of when you visit Hidden River Cave is that there are a lot of stairs to navigate.
So, not very typical, you see an entire city built up around a cave system. The cave is actually the main reason why the city's here to this day. 1794, when the early pioneers came and settled this region of Kentucky, they discovered the one thing that you really needed to survive back in that time period: clean, easy, accessible, fresh drinking water. Over time, they started to build their homes, farms, and businesses all around this area just due to that easy accessibility to it. They also did that for another reason as well, due to another natural resource the cave provides: fresh air conditioning. This is actually, here in the state of Kentucky, we have very hot, muggy, unbearable summers. Back in that time period, agriculture was one of the main resources here in this area. A lot of farms established here. So after working in the fields all day, they'd come down here and hang out in the coolest spot of town, they called it. It was so popular at one point, there was even a tennis court right here where we're standing. 1890 to 1916, you can play your fun game of tennis. We do have some of those cool historical photos inside of the museum. I can only imagine coming down here in your Sunday's best and playing that nice fun game of tennis, only to hit the ball too hard and then have to go collect it right out of the cave entrance because there wasn't a net back in that time period. This piece of property was first purchased and developed by a man named Dr. George Austin Thomas. He was the town's local dentist. He was also a local engineer as well. He purchased this property in 1888 for a whopping $375 back in that time period. That's about the equivalent of anywhere between $8,000 to $12,000 in today's currency, so quite the steal for this 10-mile cave system right here. Dr. Thomas actually lived conveniently above the sinkhole. Right up there, it's kind of hidden behind all this foliage, pawpaw trees, walnut trees, and all that fun stuff. There's a white vinyl sided house with a red roof up there. That is known as the Thomas House. It is accessible, so if you want to check that out today, you're more than welcome to. 1916, he constructed these stone staircase steps in the original ticket office that we'll be seeing better momentarily. And from 1916 to 1943, you can come here and take you a cave tour at Hidden River Cave, similar to how we're about to do. 1943, though, some unfortunate circumstances led to the closure of our beloved cave system. First, primarily due to the wartime economy. We also started to see the first signs of our pollution crisis here in our town that had several effects on the cave system and the quality of life here in the city. It started out initially as just citizens here in the area dumping all their trash in these local caves and sinkholes because weekly trash pickup was not a thing back then. There also wasn't a proper sewage system in the city at that time period, so all that human waste and agricultural waste would come and flow into the cave system through groundwater after our heavy rainfalls in the area. So runoff would enter the streams, lakes, and all this in the area would come through and contaminate the cave system. Over time, due to the extended pollution, a nasty smell started to build up inside of the cave system. It was so bad that you could actually smell this cave entrance on a hot summer day upwards to 2 blocks away. There was an urban legend, drove through Main Street at that time period, smelled the paint off your car, it stunk so bad. So, you can only imagine what it would have been like to live in this town back in that time. With the installation of those facilities, all that waste that was being dumped into the cave was now being disposed of properly and treated the correct way. We started to see the wildlife come back into the cave system and the nasty smell dissipated. We now have over 100 different types of species that live here in Hidden River Cave. 21 of them are completely adapted to the cave environment as well, which makes us a biodiverse hotspot on the planet in terms of cave ecology. which is pretty unique considering, we were a sewage system and basically a desolate wasteland just a few decades ago. So it's nice to see that the cave system has made almost a full recovery.
As we make our way down the hill to the cave, our tour guide points out the original steps down to the cave and the old ticket office just above.
What we're looking at here is one of Kentucky's largest natural cave entrances. This is a sinkhole entrance that was created by a dome room collapse somewhere during the Paleolithic time period. As we make our way down this set of stairs, some of these are the original stone staircase steps installed in 1916. I highly encourage you all to use the handrails as we make our way down and navigate them. Not only for that reason, but because it does get a little bit slick towards the bottom, we see a bunch of this vertical dripping groundwater here inside of the cave. So make our way down. Promise you if you get hit by it, it's not some random stranger licking you or kissing you on the back of the neck. It's called a cave kiss, so don't let that catch you off guard if you happen to get hit by it.
As I said earlier, there are a lot of steps to navigate on this tour, and all of the steps that you walk down, you eventually have to climb back up.
We'll be seeing these along the tour path today, spread out in all of our rooms. These are essentially our flood level indicators. To tell us how high some of our past historical floods have reached inside of the cave system, to help us have a better understanding, better monitoring, and a better research perspective on those events. Being a river cave system, one of the many challenges that we deal with year-round is flooding, primarily in the springtime and the wintertime after snowfall, rainfall, and all that fun stuff. Like we see here with the February 2019 flood marker, everything past this point would have been completely submerged by water. Of course, with the highest flood ever recorded in our cave's history, the past 31 years of doing this, right there at the mouth of the cave entrance, March of 2021. It's about 95 feet of water. Took over a week and a half for that to drain out from that specific spot, all the way back down to its normal flow stage.
Also, because of the cave's frequent flooding, it was quite dark in a lot of spaces.
Right here, folks, is the old hydroelectric pump system. Installed in 1892, this made us the second city in the state of Kentucky to have electricity. The first city here in our great state was Louisville, Kentucky, then us, and then Ashland, Kentucky. So, pretty cool, being here in the middle of nowhere at that time period and having that luxury of electricity. It was quite the feat here for our small town. This carries approximately 2% of the water in our entire cave system. And we also have our east branch, which we actually get to hear coming in from underneath this boardwalk. And we'll actually get to see that momentarily as we make our way throughout this next portion of the cave.
This old hydroelectric system was so cool to see, and to think they put it in the 1800s.
That's the big water turbines. That's what's generating all that electricity right here, folks. So they'd actually flood this room out, open up the floodgates whenever they need power in the water, and all this water would come rushing out through the dam here, spinning that gigantic turbine. So, pretty cool. State of the art back there.
You can still see the remnants on the ceiling of the old knob and tube they had for the wiring.
So we're about to enter our first of the 3 dome rooms that we're going to see today along the tour path. Each one also gets a little bit larger as we make our way throughout the route too. So this is one of the smaller rooms we have inside of the cave system. Houses about 2.4 acres of floor space inside of it. So watch your all step on the way up. To our first dome room of the day. This is known as Danielson's Dome Room or simply Dome Room 1. These rooms are pretty unique how they're formed out. A cool geological process known as stoping is responsible for the creation of these rooms. First, all this limestone around us is broken down by constant water flow. Weathering, erosion, carbonic acid, and all that stuff kind of eats away at it. Over time, it becomes very, very fragile, and then gravity starts to take shape, forming it out. Gravity pulls those weakened layers off over time and continuously breaks it until you get these dome rooms. They form out in the middle to the outsides, and they actually break from the bottom to the top. You can see each individual rock shelf layer and how it has just progressed over time, being pulled and pulled and pulled. That mimics architecture that we see, in the modern world. Churches, astrology centers, libraries, laboratories, and all of the above. We don't send any scuba divers, cave divers, or anything like that after our flood events to mark these. We send in our dedicated staff, but we do wait for the water levels to drop down to a safe amount. So typically, I'm typical coming in, with it up to my waist level. You bring in a flashlight or a headlamp and you just observe the limestone walls around you. Whenever the floods get up this high, the limestone just likes to absorb the moisture, and you kind of. Yes, so we do find a lot of artifacts from the indigenous people that live here in that time period. Here in our cave system, they actually use the chert or flint, more commonly known, which is that blackish rock layer there, to make their tools such as arrowheads, projectile points, and other things that they use in daily life. So we find a lot of those artifacts actually after heavy rainfall events in the entrance. We unearth them, and it's pretty cool.
And here we are approaching the suspension bridge.
What we're looking at here is the world's longest underground suspension bridge inside of a natural cave system in the entire world. With that being said, it also happens to be the world's shortest underground suspension bridge inside of a natural cave system in the entire world, because it is the world's only underground suspension bridge inside of a cave system in the entire world. So it wasn't really a hard work to begin in the beginning. Installed in 2018, it is still fairly new here to our facilities. 95 feet in length, 45 feet above the river system that flows below it. Because this is a suspension bridge, it does bounce, it does shake, and it does move as you make your way across. So please no extra jumping, bouncing, or swinging. Some people do happen to be afraid of heights. Some people do happen to be afraid of bridges. This is not the best combination for either of those things if you happen to be afraid of them.
And wouldn't you know, I was the first one to cross the bridge, and I can attest it does shake and it does sway, and it's a long way down.
Saying previously, you really get to see the extremes of these limestone caves and caverns, and how they're directly affected by these subterranean river systems. Here you get to witness how our landscape does change year-round by the constant flooding. You can see these giant mounds of clay and mud and sediment that gets washed in after our flooding events. Of course, as erosion from the rock breaking down continuously, you can see how it all just gets continuously pushed up throughout the year, making these giant mud mounds, crests, and hills that we can see looking down this portion of the hallway. And some of my favorite things are actually on the ceiling. They're known as striations. That's the carving out of the rock from constant water flow.
Jay told us that the staff has to come down here after major rains and clear the mud off of these walkways. He said they call the mud cave peanut butter because it's the color and consistency of peanut butter.
We get to see a beautiful flowstone drapery right there in front of us, sheltering that limestone wall behind us. Tri-colored limestone we find in this area, the light tan, light brown layer. It then progresses to a light gray layer. Then about 60 to 80 meters beneath us, it finally transcends into a deeper, darker gray that kind of pulls it all together. The lower levels of the St. John, you get to see it mixing and cross-bedding with this blackish rock. This is known as the Lost River Chert Bed, basically identified as flint, utilized by the indigenous people to make their tools, arrowheads, projectile points, and other things like that. It breaks off in the form of nodules, so we oftentimes see these cool little spherical ball shapes, like you see right here where my finger is. These rough, cool jagged edges.
It's always cool when you can see flint beds inside of a cave. The dome rooms were pretty cool to see, and we had to walk up more stairs to get to them.
The second dome room, you do get a beautiful look down the hallway from this end. You actually get to see kind of how large this room actually is. Beautiful look at the river system as well. See all the wonderful breakdown here, folks, to the left-hand side of the room. Hard to imagine at one point all these rocks would have been a part of the ceiling and the walls around us before they met their collapse. So this room is pretty unique as well. We can see a bunch of that beautiful coloration, starting to see a little bit more oranges and yellows instead of the red. We also can see some pretty cool stuff on the ceiling. We can see these cool solution or saturation pockets. They're just left behind sediment deposits from the breakdown that we see all in this room. This room is also unique because it does have a waterfall flowing in the right corner. We'll be seeing that here momentarily. 200 feet across from the right to the left wall, and over 165 feet from the top of the ceiling to its lowest point, which happens to sit over here to the left-hand side of the room. When we're quiet enough, you can actually hear the river system flowing through here. This room gets its name because the beautiful sediments and minerals that underlay the earth here kind of reminds us of the stuff we see in sunsets on the surface. A lot of those beautiful earthy tones in it.
There's just something so amazing about seeing what's underground.
As far as myself, when I'm not here at work, I'm always inside of the cave system, mapping, surveying, and exploring, checking that stuff out. I've been in parts of Mammoth Cave where more people have walked on the moon than have been in those passageways, which is pretty cool and unique. Also here too, we have some areas like that. So.
Our tour guide was kind enough to take our picture in the Sunset Dome room. After Sunset Dome, we turned around and made our exit out the same way we came.
So as far as bats, bats?
Yes, we do see small traces of bats come in and out during the year. We don't really have a big bat population, mainly due to tours coming in and out of this area, so we don't see them hardly on this route. We see them about 3 miles upstream. We see the tricolor bat come in, that's our most frequent visitor. We see the little brown bat, the big brown bat, as well as the eastern red bat as well, throughout the year, essentially. Yeah, come in and out, so they don't like to stick around. Here in this room, we do get to see some pretty cool stuff. Right here to the left-hand side, we get to see some fossilized colonial coral deposits inside of the limestone. So all those cool fan-shaped textures, little circular pockets, are all those cool colonial corals, which is pretty unique to see. We also do have some formation growth. We see some stalagmite growth erupting from the rock. Also have a bunch of these little tiny stalactite soda straws as well, starting to form on the ceiling. That's also why one of the caves in the region is named Diamond Caverns, because of that beautiful calcite there.
On the way out, we looked for cave salamanders and other wildlife. As we exited, we came back to the suspension bridge, where Jay was kind enough to take our photos once again. We made our way back through the hydroelectric part, and then we're able to see the old steps that they put in back in the early 1900s, and they were still there.
Definitely see what I mean by ocean wasn't around when they were installed. So, wow. It's pretty cool how they just held up over time.
And then it was time to climb our way back out of this cave up all those stairs. Don't laugh at my huffing and puffing trying to catch my breath. more stairs. That's a lot of steps, folks. This was an amazing cave tour, and Jay did a phenomenal job as our tour guide, giving us lots of history along the way. You can also rappel and zip line at the cave in the summer season. Unfortunately, it was closed when we were there. Thanks for joining us today at Horse Cave, Kentucky. We had a great time and hope you did as well. If you'd like to see more of our videos, click the video that just popped up on your screen.